All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick are running a preview and prediction for an intriguing game in the Big 12 going on Saturday. Colorado traveling to take on Kansas in the Arrowhead Stadium from Kansas City. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. 59.5 to the total. Colorado 1.5-point favorites. Starting with the Colorado offense, they feature two players. They're going to make numerous appearances in Arrowhead Stadium over the next decade plus. Shedeur Sanders leading the charge. This passing attack, they're just one of the toughest in the country to slow down just because they put so much stress on you. 38 attempts per game. They air it out a ton. This is a quarterback who doesn't make many mistakes. 7 interceptions this year is a higher mark than last season. That's certainly something that I guess monitor, but he's not really a problem. This guy will make a mistake and he'll bounce back instantly. Had 2 picks against Arizona on a blowout victory. For the most part, though, he's a very accurate 73% completion rating. And over the course of 3 downs, it's hard to, prevent them from getting past the sticks, Nick. They just put that kind of stress on you as a passing attack. Travis Hunter, of course, the Heisman favorite right now. 911 yards, 9 touchdowns, incredible acrobatic-like catch we saw against Utah. That's something he does on a weekly basis. Of elite ball skills, tremendous athletic ability. LaJohntay Wester had a punt return TD. Will Shepard had 2 receiving touchdowns. They're getting, a lot of different stuff out of these guys. Wester has 16 receptions over the last 2 games. He's really become that number 2 pass catcher for them. Hunter, of course, had a rushing touchdown as well. The vast amount of production they had from these pass catchers, Nick, this past weekend against Utah in all regards is very impressive. And, of course, Jimmy Horn, their speedster, didn't play in that game. You want to monitor his health. Draylon Miller stepped up, though, with a big receiving touchdown. This is a great room. I think it's probably the best in America. And, again, Nick, that production against Utah is mind-boggling what all 3 of them were able to do in different regards.
This offense is phenomenal, and this passing attack is really incredible. This is a fun team to watch. They've been really good through the air. 322 per game, 2.7 touchdowns per game, 38 attempts. Shedeur has been incredible. He's showing that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation and is certainly, a top 10 pick in the NFL draft coming up. 72% comp rate for him, nearly 73%. 3,200 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. Incredible numbers, right? He airs the ball out, absolutely whips it around. He is so talented in so many regards, a really great passer and an incredible player for this team. When you look at the wide receivers he has to throw to, they're incredibly talented, especially considering his number 1 wide receiver is really more of a defensive-focused player in Travis Hunter, the true unicorn who's having a phenomenal season. 74 grabs for 900 yards, 9 touchdowns for him. Also had a rushing touchdown in that game against Utah. He's been phenomenal, such a fun player to watch, really incredibly talented. LaJohntay Wester has been really good, 660 for him, 8 touchdowns for him, really good numbers. Will Shepard, 540, that is, 313.5 yards per grab, 6 scores for him. Jimmy Horn, their speedster, is a really good player, although a bit banged up, but still 434. Not as many touchdowns for him this season. Daron Miller has been solid. Omarion Miller has been solid as well. The 2 Millers have roughly the same amount of yards receiving. Each of them got a touchdown so far this season as well. A really good wide receiving core of a lot of talented players. Certainly must-watch television every single week.
Of course, Omarion Miller, he's been out the last 4 games. Pretty sure he's out for the year, but that just speaks volumes to the depth they have at this receiving group. Now you look at the rushing attack, they've been better. Isaiah Augusta, 362 and 4 touchdowns now on the year. Had 59 rushing and a nice score, 30-plus yards against Utah. Had 91 yards running against Cincinnati. The rushing attack has been better. Micah Welsh has been banged up. Dallin Hayden still doesn't have 200 yards this year. They've been better. Certainly still not very reliable, though, Nick. It's 2 games in a row of under 60 yards. So, make of that of you wish. But they do have 4 games of 100-plus yards this season, so they've been better. Not much of a reliable group, though, but if they can spring off a big run from time to time, like the one they did against Utah, this certainly just adds more of a dimension to this offense.
Not a great rushing attack. It hasn't had to be great so far this season, but you really like to see them be better, averaging 77 yards per game. Not a great number, 2.8 yards per carry. They're not been really that good, but you didn't expect them to be too that good. They really didn't add enough talented pieces. Assassin has been okay. 362, 4.5, and 4 scores. Dallas Hayden, 190, and a score for him. Micah Welch in 6 games. He's a little banged up, but he has 121 yards rushing and 3 scores. So not a great unit, but they're not really going to run the ball a whole lot. They've been serviceable. They've been okay at times. But this is really a pass-first offense. They're going to try and attack you through the air. If they can get some yardage and some points out of the rushing attack, it's just really adding on top of it a really solid bonus for them.
They look at the offensive line. Jordan Seaton, left tackle, for the most part, has been really good. He's had some tough games. He wasn't all that great against Utah. Certainly not the same front they're going to be seeing on Saturday, though. Tyler Brown at left guard, he's been all right. The center was Cash Cleveland against Utah. He was good as a pass blocker, as a run blocker. Him and Justin Mayers don't really do much in that regard. Phillip Houston, he's had a solid season at right tackle. Still 120th nationally in sacks allowed. Khalil Benson's typically their right guard. You certainly want to monitor his health as well. This offensive line, Nick, they've been better from time to time. Again, Utah, they gave them some real headaches, and they're still able to accomplish a lot on offense. Not going to see that type of front here against, Kansas. But what do you think of this offensive line? Because when you're this poor at times, it doesn't matter who you're playing. Pressure's going to get home occasionally.
This is the offensive line that's been solid. They've really plugged the holes. They've been better this year. They really have helped out their quarterback, prevented him from getting sacked as much as he did in the past, which I think is certainly important for this passing attack. It's a good unit. They were better this past week. This Kansas defensive line is a good unit, so there certainly is some opportunity. But Seaton's been good. Mayers has been solid as well. Some other pieces, Tyler Brown's been good. I like what this offensive line's been able to do. I think they'll be able to be strong and continue to hold up well here in this game.
Now we move to a Kansas offense. It's really found its stride over the last couple of games. This is a team that started 2-6. Pretty much every single game was a single-figure loss, though, so a very deceiving record. And now they're bringing it to the rest of the conference. They're knocking out everybody single-handedly, Nick. This is the reason why this conference potentially might only have one team in the playoffs. They lost to Kansas State by 2, had no issues with Iowa State, go on the road and beat BYU, took their 0 away from them. Now they can potentially beat Colorado as well. And thank goodness that this conference will get an automatic bye, or they're going to get an automatic ticket punched to the playoff, because if they didn't, the Jayhawks would be, complete spoilers in a bad way, and it's really because Jalen Daniels is playing excellent football. On the year, he had 10 interceptions, has only 2 over the last 3, though. Early on in the year, played some bad ball, playing much better, though, much more precision passer. Not really completing a high percentage, only 57%, but they've been big plays. He has a nice trio of weapons, and Luke Grime leading the way. Quentin Skinner, Lawrence Arnold, these are all highly impactful pass catchers. Skinner with 21.8 yards per catch. 582 yards and 6 scores for Luke Grime. This is an interesting offense, Nick, because we always knew they had potential. They looked, pretty iffy early on in the season. All of a sudden, they're catching their stride. They only had 242 yards against BYU. But early on in that game, they went right downfield for a touchdown. They had a couple of other big plays throughout the night. This is an offense, Nick, that's in high gear. They absolutely demolished Iowa State. Had a good game against Kansas State as well. So I don't think this defense is going to be anything they haven't seen so far.
This is an offense that's playing up to the expectations that we had for them in the preseason. This is a Kansas team that their record is not indicative of how good they are. And like you said, they played spoiler in this conference, really knocking down a peg Iowa State and BYU. Iowa State find themselves in a very tough position now. With 2 losses in the conference, they really kind of got to win out and get some help. And then BYU has played themselves in a tough position here where they got to win out as well with the 1 loss they got in the conference now. And they got a tough matchup coming up this week as well. When you look at it, this Kansas team's a good offense. I really do like what they have at quarterback. I think Daniels, that is getting better so far this season and getting more comfortable. The completion percentage is still really not good at 56%, really a bit inaccurate and messy at times. Below 2,000 yards passing, but almost at that mark with 1985, 13 touchdowns, 10 picks. He's getting better, though. He's having better games the past couple of weeks, and he is a really talented quarterback that's been solid for them in the past and is slowly finding his sort of stride. They just, played against BYU. He didn't have a great game, 63% comp rate, 169 and a pick, no touchdowns in that game passing. He looked okay against Iowa State, 295 and 2 touchdowns, but it was another 50% completion percentage game. So not very accurate, but has decent yardage as well. I do think that this offense is getting better. I do like what some of the pieces look like in this wide receiving room for him as well.
Tremendous balance from this Kansas offense. They didn't run the ball that well against BYU, but in most of their other games, they've been able to eclipse the 150-yard mark. And Daniels, of course, he's a great runner from the quarterback position. 3 straight games of 10-plus carries. That's something, his legs are going to be heavily involved. And, of course, Devin Neal leading the way, 926 yards, 12 touchdowns. Colorado's run defense has been very solid this season. So I expect him to struggle a good bit. It's going to be hard for our yards, but this is a guy that can certainly light you up, and he's going to get plenty of production as well. He gets about 16 attempts per contest. Daniel Highshaw looks like he's back and fully healthy, so will he get involved? Who knows? From game to game, he doesn't really see much of the ball, and when the offense is really clicking, he will. So if Highshaw's on the field, it means they're running the ball pretty well. What do you think they're going to do here? Because Colorado hasn't given up 200-plus yards rushing yet this year. They do give up 100-plus, though, in pretty much every single game but the one against Utah this past weekend. So there's going to be opportunities for you to succeed here, but it's going to be hard-fought ground and pound. They're not going to really have much explosive plays, but that's where Kansas thrives.
Kansas has success, they're going to certainly win on the ground in this game. Devin Neal's been really good, nearly 1,000 yards rushing, 926, 5.7 yards per carry, 12 scores, 92 yards per game. Good numbers there. Henshaw has been solid as well, 376, 5.8, and 3 scores. Jalen Daniels, 330, and 6 scores for him on the ground. I like the wide receiving room. Solid pieces there. Luke Grime, 582, and 6 scores. Quentin Skinner as well, 480, 21.8 yards to grab and 4 scores for him. Decent numbers there. This offense is solid, right? But they're going to have to be good on the ground here. They're going to have to attack Colorado's run defense, which has been a little suspect at times. They're going to have a really good day on the ground here. I think they're going to have a good balance between Neal and Daniels if they want to be competitive and upset Colorado in this game.
Now looking at the offensive line, coming into the year, I thought they'd have a top 20 O-line in CFB, and I'd say that they've certainly delivered on that remark. Bryce Calbadou, the left tackle, has been great. Left guard, Michael Ford, has also been splendid in all regards. Bryce Foster, he struggled a good bit, the transfer from A&M as a pass blocker, but he's really stepped up in the run blocking category. Right guard, Kobe Baines, and the right tackle, Logan Brown, who's probably the best of the bunch. This offensive line, Nick, it's not even close to what Colorado has. They don't allow many sacks. They don't allow many negative plays. This is an offense that can stay on schedule, and that's certainly a big, opportunity if you want to pull upsets, and that's what they've been doing because they don't get behind the schedule too often. And even though the explosive plays are certainly something that might be limited in this game, if they can run the ball and have balance, these receivers can make plays in this Kansas offense. That's where they typically thrive, is with balance, and this offensive line is a big reason why.
Yeah, this offensive line's been really good so far this season. A bunch of guys that returned from last year, plus Bryce Foster, who was the add at center out of the portal, who's been really good for this team. He came over from Texas A&M. I've been happy with what he's looked like so far this season. Kobe Baines, Michael Ford have both been really strong as well. Good numbers and good performance out of them. I like what this offensive line can do, and this is a really solid offense in general that's kind of finding their stride here. A good opportunity here against a great Colorado team that has got a pretty solid defense. This could be a big opportunity for them.
Now we go to a Buffalo defense that just seems to continuously get better. I know they've had 20-plus points over the last 3 games. This pass rush, though, has been good. 2 games of 7-plus sacks over the last month. They had 4 against Utah. This is a pass rush that's really starting to get after it. Of course, it starts with B.J. Green. I thought he was a very talented player for Arizona State. He arrives here, and he's been their best player. Arden Walker's really been stepping up. Amari McNeil as well. Samuel Okunlola. This is a nice rotation they have in terms of pass rushers, and I think they also have a great player in the middle, Chidozie Nwankwo, who's a great run stopper, and obviously against this offense, you're going to need players like him and Shane Cokes to be good and strong. Nwankwo, I think, a bit of an undersized player, plays with a lot of aggression, a lot of tenacity. This is a good defensive line, Nick. They're no fluke. Obviously, this is, nothing but portal adds here. None of these guys they really recruited, but it's a nice group they put together. And coming into the year, we wondered how good they could truly be. And again, they've been stout. This is a run defense that has not allowed 200 yards in a game this year. They do give up 100-plus in each game. So I think this is very impressive improvement. 138 yards per game. You got to be very happy with what Colorado's doing in the trenches.
Yeah, I'm happy with what they've been able to do. The defensive line's been solid. A rotational unit, a bunch of guys they added from the portal that have all been really good. Arden Walker, 27 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks for him. Samuel Okunlola has been really solid, 24 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. B.J. Green has been really good as well, 23 total tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks for him. Amari McNeil has been really good as well, 21 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. And Nwankwo has been solid as well, 20 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack for him. Shane Cokes, 17 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss plus a sack, while Dan Hayes has 16 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Really good numbers, really good unit, very physical defensive line. They're going up against a great offensive line, right? Who's going to win that battle in the trenches? That's a big matchup in the middle of the trenches there. Who can win that battle? Very tough, certainly going to be one to keep an eye on.
A big reason why they've been better on defense because of the linebackers. Nakia Hill-Green's been a good run defender. Levante Bentley's been even better, I think, getting up close to the line of scrimmage, being physical, slicing through gaps. He certainly is impressed in that regard. I think a big reason why this offense has really improved, Nick, is because they just trust each other more. They're trusting their defensive line. The linebackers are playing the gaps they're supposed to be playing. It allows them to play nice, cohesive football. These linebackers in coverage aren't all that great, though, and I don't think Kansas can really expose that too much. They don't really have tight ends, maybe on wide receiver screens or maybe some wheel routes from time to time if you get correct personnel. I don't think the coverage rules will be a problem in this game, but I think trust is just a very important thing for the Buffalo's defense, and that's why they've been good. That's why I think they'll have a solid outing on Saturday.
Yeah, I really like what this defense can do. I think Hill-Green's been really good for them. 73 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 picks as well. I think, Levante Bentley's been really solid. Another good leader for this team. 44 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss. He's really good on the line. 2 fumble recoveries and a forced fumble. Tajay McCoy as well has been decent in rotational reps. 14 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss for him. This middle of this defense has been a lot better than last year. They've stepped up. They've been really good. I've been happy with what they've been able to do.
Now you look at a secondary, it's also been quite solid as well. Not much that you can really do to expose them here. They've had a couple of games that give up 200-plus yards against Utah. That was kind of a less than stellar effort in terms of some of the seam routes they're allowing. Tight ends really carving them up in that game. Still finished with 3 interceptions at the end of the day. Also played Isaac Wilson, and Daniels early on in the year had a bit of a turnover problem, but he's really toned that down as of late. This is a team that loves to get vertical. And it's a passing attack that really just thrives off big plays. DJ McKinney, Travis Hunter, a phenomenal duo at corner. Hunter, he's been great, and McKinney as well. Colton Hood as the number 3 corner. Will occasionally get on field. He's an all right guy. Maybe a guy they can target, though, for the most part. At safety, Shiloh Sanders, his return's been great. And he's, we talk about it every week. This is a guy who can make an impact against the run, and that's something that Kansas is going to look to do. So if this is a guy that can get down towards the line of scrimmage, especially on read option opportunities, he's a guy I can trust to make tackles and be sound against the run. Cameron Selma and Craig, he plays a lot in the box. He's more of a linebacker, I guess you could say, than a safety, but he still is mainly a DB who's been good against the run this year. And in the slot, Preston Hodge, he's been pretty abysmal in coverage. Hasn't been very good as a tackler either. So that's another guy they can look to try and attack. But overall, this is a secondary, Nick. They're going to be competitive for 4 quarters.
They're going to be competitive. This is a really good secondary. Selman Craig, he's a really good player in the box. Like the way they move him around. He's a versatile safety. Solid in the box, a really good run defender. 73 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks for him. DJ McKinney, 55 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and interception as well. 8 pass breakups for him. Really good numbers there. Craig had 3 pass breakups. Shiloh Sanders, he's a really good player. You can get out of him. 42 total tackles, 1 sack for them, 1 pass breakup. Good numbers there. Preston Hodge has been really good. 2 picks for him, 7 pass breakups, 33 total tackles. He's a really good coverage asset. Stoudemire has been really good as well. 28 total tackles, 4 pass breakups for him. Colton Hood's been good in rotational appearances, 19 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 interceptions for him as well, 4 pass breakups. And then, of course, I have to talk about the star player himself, Travis Hunter, a guy getting a lot of love in the Heisman for his performance on both sides of the ball, having a good season in the secondary, 24 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 3 picks. Did get beat on one play in particular in that Utah game. I think a lot of people were talking about, got beat over the shoulders a little bit on a deep ball from that quarterback, the Utah quarterback. He's playing really solid, though. He still is an incredible player. 8 pass breakups on the season for him. I love watching him play. A really talented piece. It's fun to highlight him again. An incredibly talented piece that rounds off an incredibly talented Colorado defense that is playing a lot better football than they were playing last year.
Then we move to a Jayhawks defense, kind of in resurgence mode the last couple of weeks. Iowa State was playing from behind, so that allowed them to put up some yards and points. Kansas State, though, they held them to under 30 points, but they were giving up a good amount of yards in that one. BYU, I thought, ran the ball quite well. This is a run defense that's really just not been all that good. They've been kind of brutalized at times this year. Obviously, the threat isn't all that big against Colorado. But, they've been playing a little bit better on the ground, so I think there's opportunities, in short yardage situations, maybe in the red zone to catch them off guard. So, they still got to be awake and alert, this D-line. Outside of Jeremy Robinson, no real standouts. He has 8.5 TFL. Dean Miller has 8 TFL. He's been all right. He's probably their best tackler, best run defender. Guys like Caleb Taylor, DJ Withers, Dylan Wooduk. This is a defensive line that's really by committee, Nick. It's not all that good of a unit, but I think they're probably playing better than I consider they would coming into the yeyear. That's hard to say considering they are giving up about 150 yards per game on the ground. For a couple of stout performances, pulling that number down a bit. Are you worried about this D-line here? Because I think most importantly, they're going to have to try and find a pass rush against Colorado. And, 24 sacks this year isn't the best number, and there's only really 2 guys that can get after the passer. So what do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, I'm worried about this pass rush. This is a unit that does weaken me. It does worry me a little bit. Look at Dean Miller, 27 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. He's one of your better pass rushers there. With Jeremy Robinson, who's been really solid, 20 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. But it's really the Miller and Robinson show. Outside of that, not a great unit in terms of the pass rush. Dylan Wadake, 20 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss for him. Caleb Taylor, 17 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, a sack for him. DJ Withers, 16 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Tommy Dunn, 14 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Blake Herhold, 14 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and rotational appearances. Not a great unit. They're going to have a tough test here because it's a revamped Colorado offensive line. If you give the quarterback too many times, you give Sanders a lot of time back there, he's going to absolutely pick you apart. Shedeur will make you pay if you give him opportunities to create plays.
Now look at the middle of the Kansas defense. Coming into the year, I thought this linebacking group was one of the worst in the conference. Didn't really think they were all that good. And they've been pretty bad. J.B. Brown, I think he's been their best player. He's been above average. He's been a really good pass rusher for them as well. He's their best player in all regards at linebacker. Corner Wheeler after that, no good. Tywone Berryhill is even worse than he was a season ago. This is not great for this team, Nick. These linebackers aren't really enforcers. They're not, leaders by any stretch of the imagination. I know that Colorado's probably not going to be able to expose you too much in that regard because they don't really, attack the short passing game all that much. You're going to have to get out there and make tackles on screens, though. Be good against the run game because I think that the Buffaloes might try to run the ball a little bit more than you typically see. Linebacker group's just not good, though, but I think Brown, he can potentially find his way home. Does have 4 sacks this year. That's really the only standout by a wide margin.
Yeah, Brown's the best player in this linebacker core. That's not really a good unit. Even that, he's not having a great season. Leads the team with 6'3" total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. You expect more out of him, especially be the leading tackler for this team. Having a good season, but I expect a little bit more out of him being the best part of this linebacker core. That does get a little bit weaker. Cornell Wheeler, 45 total tackles, a pick for him, 4 tackles for loss in 8 games. He's a decent player. Tywone Berryhill, 28 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and Jason Gillum, 13 total tackles, a tackle for loss. A weak linebacking core that's not been great so far this season. We worried about Wheeler, we worried about Berryhill in the preseason. They're not playing phenomenal. Certainly an opportunity for Colorado to attack this linebacking core. I don't know if it will play a huge impact in this game, but this is not a great linebacking core. Not great tacklers. Don't really do a whole lot for me.
You look at the Kansas secondary, a team that's given up 229 yards per game. They do have 12 interceptions on the year. Iowa State put up a lot of yards again playing from behind. Kansas State, they were able to have some nice balance on offense. Had 4 interceptions against Houston. It's really just been a bi-weekly approach really for the secondary if they're going to be good or not. They're great against BYU though. Marvin Grant is their most consistent players at slot. At free safety, O.J. Burrow's really not that good of a player. I think the biggest thing here, though, that excites you for Kansas is they have 2 really good corners in Mello Dotson and Kobe Bryant, and these guys can be competitive in this matchup. Dotson's having an excellent year in coverage. Bryant's having an elite year against the run. These are 2 corners here. They're going to be looking forward to this matchup, Nick, because this is a great opportunity for them to prove how good they are against some phenomenal wide receivers. This will be a competitive matchup out wide. They're going to be physical. They're going to be nasty. And, if they're going to win this game, these guys will have to be big. Combined 9 interceptions between them. Might be the best corner duo in all of college football. But the other guys will also have to step up at an adequate rate. Or, they'll probably get torched if not.
If you're going to win this game, it's going to rely on your 2 corners there. They complement each other so well with Dotson being a better coverage asset while Bryant being a better run defender. That's a really good matchup there, a really solid piece that complements each other. I really like what I've seen out of the 2 of them so far this season. Dotson, 41 total tackles, 5 interceptions, including 2 of those he took for pick sixes, 6 pass breakups, a fumble recovery for Dotson. Bryant, 32 total tackles for him, 2 tackles for loss, 4 picks as well. Great numbers there, 4 pass breakups, 6 pass breakups for Dotson. I look at O.J. Burrows at safety. He's got to be really strong in this game as well. They move him around a fair bit, 51 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and an interception for him. 5 pass breakups. Marvin Grant has been solid as well. 46 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups. Taylor Davis, 28 total tackles and a pass breakup. Jalen Dye has been solid, 14 total tackles. Devin Dye, his brother, as well, has been solid, 13 total tackles and 1 interception of rotational appearances. This secondary's got to be strong here. They have to play a good game because they're going to attack them over and over again. If Dotson and Bryant could have a good day, they can be competitive and potentially win this game.
Now look at the tail of the tape, the team comparisons. Quarterback and wide receiver, clear edge there as it is every week. Running back and O-line for Kansas, I think they have clear edges in those regards. I think on defense, Colorado's going to get the edge in every category. I think, secondary, though, the guys we alluded to at corner could certainly give them a run for their money. I'll give the Buffaloes the slight edge in that area, though. What are your thoughts on the team comps?
I think this is a fair team comparison, right? I think these edges are fair. This Colorado team is a really good team on paper, but great quarterback, great wide receivers, and a really good defense is getting a lot better. Although maybe you could give the secondary and try to make a case for Kansas. I just don't think it's a fair case right now. I like what these team comparisons look like.
Looking at the final thoughts on the prediction. Keys to the game for Colorado. Don't let the balance of Kansas get out of hand. And for the Jayhawks, find frequent pass rush. And the corners need to make plays on the ball. And I certainly think there's going to be a competitive matchup against that receiving group. A bit of a lower score for me. I don't really know why. It's just how it works sometimes in CFB. Colorado 31-26. Kansas looking to play spoiler, Nick. The only reason why the Buffaloes right now are the favorite in the conference is because the Jayhawks knocked off Iowa State and BYU, and that's giving Colorado an edge, and they can all of a sudden kind of disrupt their season as well. I think the Buffaloes will still be in the driver's seat in the standings for the Big 12 title game, but the Jayhawks, they have 2 games left. They're sitting at 4 wins. They want to get the bowl eligibility. They're going to play incredibly hard. This will be one of the toughest games all year for Colorado. I think they're just too good. They're playing clean football. They're not getting exposed on defense. And the offense, they eventually find their stride, even if the offensive line and the run game aren't really always there. I think the Buffaloes will get the job done here, Nick, but this is a tough game, and if they were going to lose one, it would be this one, who all of a sudden is a major game. We didn't think we would talk about this one at all in the preseason. Buffaloes are in a certain position, but so are the Jayhawks. They're playing for pride and that bowl eligibility. Kansas, I think they're going to lose this one, but it's hard to bet against this team because they've been great over the past, really the entire year.
My gut is saying I should go for a closer game. I have a more lopsided score, 18 points. I think Colorado will pull away late in this one. This game's being played at Arrowhead Stadium. I think Colorado will have a strong fan base showing there. I think they will travel well for this one. A lot of seats available up for grabs, more than your typical game for Kansas. Their stadium's been under renovations all year. They've been playing at a few different locations in Kansas City area, playing at Arrowhead, where the Chiefs played at the MLS Stadium as well for Sporting Kansas City in that area. This is a fun matchup. This is a huge game in the Big 12. Obviously, Colorado, some people had them in their playoffs in the preseason. You and I weren't as high on them. They've certainly exceeded my expectations, exceeded your expectations as well. They're playing really good football. It looks like Deion Sanders has put things together. Coach has done a really good job with this team, and they put themselves in a great spot with the way things have shaken out in this conference. They play this kind of crazy up and down football, and sometimes it's really high, sometimes it's really low. I think they're going to be high this weekend as well, riding on a high and pushing towards that conference title berth. Obviously, if they get in the playoffs, that'd be really fun, must-watch college football. They get a bye, play at a neutral site, and we really see what that looks like. This is a good team that's playing really good football. Kansas is playing equally good football. They've certainly turned things around, and I think their record is not indicative of how they've played so far this season. Under Lance Leopold, they've turned things around from the early marks where they were just a mess in September. I'm really happy with the way that Kansas has developed, and they've turned more into the team that I thought they were going to be this year. I think they can keep it close early on, but I think eventually Colorado will pull away and win this one big and continue to march towards what would really be an unprecedented college football playoff berth for the Buffaloes, who have turned things around under Deion Sanders. I mean, this team won one game 2 years ago. If you look back at our old episodes, you listen to the preview we did for them before that season in 2022, we said this team had no hope. They had absolutely nothing. We said it'd be even a shock if they won a game. They were so bad that year. They've turned things completely around. And if Deion can get this team to the playoff with the way they're playing right now, it's a very impressive turnaround. This team's fun to watch. Certainly must-watch television going down on Fox in this game. It's certainly worth tuning in at 3:30 to see what goes on. A huge matchup in the Big 12.
So for today's episode, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.